All right, let's go ahead and start with a word of prayer. Loving Father, thank you so much for the blessing of this day that you've given to us. We thank you for the gift of food, the science of cooking. We just pray you'll be with us now as we learn together, and that you will guide and direct everything we learn. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we're talking about tofu, and we're talking about 2 different savory recipes and 1 sweet recipe, because tofu is versatile. You can use it across the board. It has a very subtle flavor, and it comes in different textures. So we're going to talk about the different textures of tofu. So the first one is one that we use often. This one's from Walmart, and it's the super firm organic tofu. If you can get one that says non-GMO, if you're conscious about it being GMO or not, that'd be better. And so usually it'll say on it if it's non-GMO. So this one is at Walmart, and you can find that. And then the other one that we've used today, we just kept the package because we're not going to demonstrate this one. This is a silken tofu. And Simple Truth Organic, we get it at Kroger's here. And this one says it's organic and non-GMO. So that's a good thing. Another place you can find it is at an Asian food market. And at the Asian food market, or any health food store, maybe natural grocers, you can find the ones that are in those little sealed packages. And those usually are the softer types of tofu, more water. And so you can use that for softer foods. If you want something that has more of a meatier texture, the firmer the better, because there's less liquid. It has a stronger texture. All right. So tofu, it is just soybeans that have been soaked overnight in water and then blended, and then it's blended into like a milk and then poured over into a pan, heated until it's boiling, and then you separate the curds from the milk itself. There's a whole process that you can add the lime juice to curdle it, and then you press it all together. So I was going to show a video on it, but I didn't have that. I don't have that today. But it's something to look up. If you can look up a quick YouTube video on how tofu is made, it's really interesting. You can use lime juice, or you can use, in Asia, they use the salt water from the seaweed. I'm not sure exactly what the name is called, but yeah. All right, let's just get started with our first recipe, and as we go, we'll talk about the benefits of tofu. So our first recipe we're going to go over is tofu pastrami. And this is a recipe I came across recently, and I really enjoy it. It's fun. It has color. I liked pastrami before I became vegetarian. I like pastrami. I like corned beef. And so this is a kind of a good substitute. It's not exact flavor, but we do kind of call it that anyways. It tastes really good. I had a friend who loves this meat. And I'm like, can you try this and just let me know what you think of it? And he's like, yeah, I can do that. So he tried it. He's like, yeah, that tastes pretty good. I mean, it's not exactly, but he's like, I would eat it. So it's approved. Let me go grab recipes. All right, so this one is going to be the first one on your sheet. And this is going to be a really quick, simple recipe. As you see, it just starts off with the tofu and then all the ingredients for the marinade. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to be using this type of tofu. And the one that we had today for a sample was not frozen. But if you want it to have even meatier texture, so more of a corned beef kind of style, firmer texture, you can freeze it in the freezer overnight and then use it the next day. You'll probably have to squish more water out of it, but it ends up being a little bit, kind of hard to explain the texture, but it's just firmer. Yeah, it's a little bit more spongy. Spongy in a good way. So we have it right here. We've already drained it and squeezed out the water. And I'm going to cut it thinly. I'm not a pro at this. I do have a mandolin at home that I would like to use. It makes the job go a lot faster, but sometimes it doesn't always fit the big block of tofu. You can also cut it in half, and you can run it through that. You can use a potato peeler or an extra wide peeler, and that works really well. Yeah?
It might be just a little bit thicker.
Yeah, that would be, anything you've got. There you go. So yeah, cheese cutter or whatever. And you can make it as thick as you want. It will just take a little bit longer to get the desired texture. So it is possible just to do with a knife and a cutting board, but as you can see, it is kind of tricky. It's not my favorite method. We like to teach people with what they've got. So instead of having to buy special equipment, we like to just show them something that they can do with what they have. So I'm gonna take these strips that I've already cut, and I'm just gonna lay them in this container. It's just a Tupperware container. It needs to be able to have a sealable lid, so that way you can marinate the tofu in here without anything getting in there. All right, I'm gonna set that there, and I'm going to set this to the side because I don't want to fight with it right now. I'll deal with it later. All right, let me grab a napkin. So next we're gonna do the marinade. Like I said, it's very straightforward. All the ingredients that are listed there, just throw them in a blender. You can use a blender or you can use a NutriBullet. This is our favorite little thing. It's just quick and easy. So what I just did is I put in the beet. I already peeled it. And this is only half of a small beet, fresh beet, not cooked. I'm not sure if cooked would make a difference. It'd probably change the flavor a little bit, but other than that, it's up to you how you want to put it in there because it's just there for the color. That's all it's for. All right, so this right here is vegetable, seasoned vegetable base, better than bouillon. You can use any kind of, vegetable broth, but this one, you just have to use a teaspoon of it in a cup of water, and it makes a cup of vegetable broth. We like the flavor of this one, but you can use whatever you like, whatever you're familiar with back at home. So I'm going to just measure out a cup of water and pour it into this other glass real quick so I can mix this up. Have you ever used this before?
No, I haven't used it before.
Okay, that's also at Walmart. It's great using it in soups. We use that, again, I will show you in a little bit, we're going to use it for our tofu, or a chicken-like tofu. Okay, pour this in here. Dry this up a little bit. All right, so the next ingredient on there is our soy sauce or Bragg's aminos. Bragg's aminos, have you used that? Okay, so you're familiar with that. For those who don't know what this is just a substitute for soy sauce. It's lower in sodium. And you can find this at any health food store. I'm gonna put 3 teaspoons. It says 2 to 3. It's up to you. I think 3 gives it more of a salty taste because I'm not adding any salt besides this. And the next ingredient is apple cider vinegar. I've not tried it with white vinegar. Apple cider vinegar has a little bit different flavor. White vinegar is very sharp and this is a little bit more subtle. But you can experiment with that. All right, Dijon mustard. And again, I haven't used regular mustard, but I'm sure it would be fine with regular mustard. And I'm just going to add 2 teaspoons of this. Those are generous teaspoons. And then black pepper. Coriander. Coriander is actually just cilantro seeds that have been dried and ground down. And so I don't have coriander at home. But what I do use is I use the cilantro stems because that gives the same flavor, and the stems are stronger than the leaves. So that's what I usually use. Okay, I'm looking for my paprika, black pepper. Okay. I don't have any cilantro stems with me, but coriander is optional. You can add it if you want it or not. So 1 teaspoon of paprika, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and then it'll be 1 teaspoon for garlic and the onion too. And you may find that you want to enhance different flavors. My mom always tells me if you want to try a new recipe, try it, follow the recipe exactly, see how it tastes, and then if you don't like it, then modify it. So I had a habit of modifying it before trying it the first time, because I'm like, I don't know if I like this. She's like, just make it the first time according to the recipe, and then you can always change it later. But this one, you may find that you like it to be a little bit stronger with the garlic or the onion, or maybe you don't like paprika in yours. I use smoked paprika, but you can use regular paprika. Or maybe you want it to be a little bit saltier. It's up to you. All right, so I'm just going to blend that. I think that's all the ingredients. Yep. I'm going to blend that until it's smooth. All right, so I have my tofu laid in here, and I'm going to pour it right in there. And then I'm just going to wiggle it around a little bit. You can get your hands in there if you want, if you feel like you want to make sure each one's coated. That's fine, it's up to you. But wiggling it around seems to work just fine for me. I'm going to set this to the side. The minimum time you can marinate that is about 30 minutes. But ideally, if you let it sit overnight, it's going to have a stronger flavor. So I did the one earlier for about, I would say, 4 hours. So our next one is the chicken leg tofu. This one's fun because you can use it for anything. My mom makes, we make tacos with it usually, but my mom also makes an amazing chicken noodle soup. And so she'll put that kind of tofu in the chicken noodle soup, and it's really good. All right, so again, we're gonna use this kind of tofu, extra firm. We want that meaty texture. And this has already been drained. Let me go ahead and get my skillet on. We use this electric skillet. It's non-stick, but you use whatever you have, but preferably something that's not going to stick, because otherwise the tofu will stick to it when it's cooking, and it's just gonna flake everywhere, and that's no fun. So I'm gonna turn it up to about 300 because it gets pretty hot. You can make this whatever size you like. I made that one kind of chunky. I probably should have made it smaller. So I'm gonna make these ones smaller.
More marinate. Okay.
Yeah, it's easier to marinate it when it's a little bit smaller, because we're not gonna be letting it sit for hours. We're just gonna be cooking it right in the pan. I'm making it into cubes that are about this big. I love how simple tofu is. It's just straightforward and really easy to learn when you're a beginner. All right, so I just put a little bit of oil in there. Like I said, it's a non-stick, but the oil helps carry the seasonings. So you don't have to add oil, that's optional. But it does help the seasonings infuse better. This just sit here for a little bit and hang out. I want it to brown on its edges. And when I mean brown, it needs a nice tan. It needs to look like it went to the beach. So you'll see it in a little bit, what that looks like. Okay, so while that's doing that, we're gonna talk about some benefits of tofu. So, tofu, let's get a marker here. Tofu contains all essential amino acids. Not just some, it contains all. So if you are wanting to go vegan and you're worried about getting your protein, getting those amino acids, tofu is an awesome way to replace that. So it contains all of them in its complete form. Your body can digest it really well and absorb it. It's nutrient rich. You'll see on your notes at the very end some of the nutrients that it's high in. Nutrient rich. So we have calcium. It's 53% of the daily value. So one serving of tofu, one serving equals 3.5 ounces. So 3.5 ounces of tofu has 53% of your daily value in calcium, 51% of your daily value in manganese, 42 in copper, 32 of selenium, 18% of vitamin A, 15% of phosphorus, and 15% of iron, and 14% of magnesium. That's pretty awesome. And you can have up to 4 servings of tofu a day and be totally fine. Stirring this right now, it's starting to look tan. So that container right here, this right here is 16 ounces of tofu. So in that package of tofu, you have more than enough of your daily value and those nutrients that we just mentioned. All right. Okay, so tofu contains phytoestrogens. And these have been found to help with cancers, many different kinds of cancers, especially breast cancer and heart disease, along with other diseases. But many people think of phytoestrogens as a bad thing, especially when it comes to men's health. They're afraid that it's going to affect their hormones. And many studies have been made recently, especially, showing that that's phytoestrogens. They have the same kind of similar structure to estrogen, but they're not exactly the same. They will attach themselves, bind themselves in the same way that estrogen will to some parts of the body, but it's not as strong. So phytoestrogens, they don't express themselves like estrogen in the same way. So phytoestrogen, I'm messing up my words. Phytoestrogens are at least 100 to 1,000 times weaker than estrogen. So you'd have to eat a lot of tofu or a lot of soy products in a day in order to get negative effects, especially if you're a man. So they said there's only like a handful of research studies that have shown men who have been adversely affected, and then they asked them how many times they ate the tofu, and it was way beyond their need. So a serving size is 3.5 ounces and have about 4 servings a day. These guys were having at least 10 servings a day. So it goes back to the temperance. More is not always better. too much of even a good thing is not a good thing. All right, so this is looking pretty good. Right now it has that tan look. It's not on all sides, but the majority of the sides are looking pretty good. So I am going to go ahead and add in the vegetable broth. So the recipe says 1 teaspoon of vegetable bouillon, which is this, mixed into a 1/4 cup of water. We don't want too much water in this or else it'll make it soggy. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour it in. And I'm gonna wait for that to evaporate and soak into the tofu. And while it's evaporating and soaking in, I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of our seasonings, which is just onion powder, nutritional yeast, and parsley. We have 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. And for those of you who don't know what nutritional yeast is, it is just yeast that has been activated and then fortified with essential nutrients, including B12. So if you're afraid of having a deficiency in B12 when you go vegan or when you are trying to go plant-based, consider using nutritional yeast. It's really good for your body. Parsley flakes, we're just going to add 2 teaspoons. And we're just giving you a base idea. You can add whatever seasonings you want. The broth is what's going to give it that meatier flavor. The nutritional yeast is going to give it more of that chicken-like flavor. It's kind of a cheesy flavor sometimes too. And then I'm going to add onion. But if you want to add, I don't know, barbecue sauce or make it spicy, do whatever works for you. Get creative. So I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of onion granules. Now I'm going to let this keep cooking and keep browning. And then salt. It says a teaspoon of salt. I feel like that's sometimes a little bit too much, to be honest, because the vegetable broth has some salt in it too. But you can add what you need. So I'm going to do maybe 1/2 teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon. We had a little malfunction a second ago where this thing had just turned off on itself. And so this pan cooled down a little bit. So because of that, it's not looking as crisp. It's better to do it while it's all really hot because it'll just firm up real quick and the seasonings won't be all crumbled everywhere. But it's okay. It's just the idea that we're getting right here. All right. So while that's finishing cooking, we'll just talk about what we did for the tofu pudding. So for those of you who are watching, you didn't get to try this, but this is amazing. Super easy to make. It's just 4 ingredients. We have the silken tofu. You can use this kind of tofu, or you can use the one that's in that little package, the sealed package. I'm not sure the name of the brand. The one that you can find at Asian markets. And then we just used one of these packages and 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. You can make it vanilla pudding if you want. You don't have to add the cocoa. And then we added 5 tablespoons of cane sugar. You can use honey, agave nectar, whatever you want to do, maple syrup. And 4 teaspoons of vanilla. And then a pinch of salt. That saltiness enhances the sweetness. So sometimes you don't need to add more sugar. You may just need to add some salt, and that'll help balance everything out. And then you just put it in your fridge and let it chill for an hour or overnight after blending it. You put all the ingredients together, you blend them together, and you can use a food processor, a regular blender. We haven't tried it with our little NutriBullet, but I'm sure it'd work just fine. But you can also use a hand blender, and that's what we used today. It was one of those hand wand blenders, and it worked really well. So use what you've got. And you'll see at the bottom of your page, you will see where there's some articles that you can check out later. And those are really interesting reads. So I read some of those earlier, and I thought you guys might like to see them too. All right, this is done now. I'm gonna turn it off. And there you go. You see it there? Let me show you this one over here. It looks a little bit better. This one looks kind of anemic because the seasonings didn't infuse very good. This is what it should look like. Nice and crispy on all sides and just infused with flavor. Okay. Well, next we're going to go over to the kitchen and we're going to make this one. So we're going to put it in the oven and do the whole process there. You're going to want to keep notes because there's some things I didn't add on the recipe. I've let it, it's probably marinated maybe for 20 minutes, not the ideal, but I wanted to show you what it looks like when we put it on the pan and then in the oven. I'm not sure if we'll do the whole process. We don't have very much time for all that. And you can come over here if you want. And I don't know where you want to put the camera. You want to put it right here? Okay. So I just put a little bit of oil here. Well, that's quite a bit of oil. But this pan is not a non-stick pan. So I don't want it to stick to this pan. Can you see okay? You can come right here if you want. Okay, so this is it after it's been marinating. See that it's all pink now? You see it too? And I'm just gonna lay it on here in one layer. Have you used an air fryer?
No, I haven't used one.
Okay. Those are getting really popular. And you can do this in an air fryer too. But this works just fine. Okay, so just save your liquid because you're going to need that. I'm going to need a little oil. Show us a little. Okay, so I'm just going to put it straight in like this. And we're going to set a timer for 10 minutes. Oops. Okay, timer. And I have the oven set to 425. I got that started before we started, so it's nice and preheated. All right, so we put this in the oven. It's in there for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, I'm gonna pull it out and I'm gonna put it here. And I'm just gonna take the same liquid, this is the liquid that it was marinating in, and I'm just gonna put it over the top of each of them. Then I'm gonna flip them and do it again on the other side. And then I'll put them back in the oven for another 10 minutes and bring them out. Repeat the same process, put them back in and let them cook in there for the last 10 minutes. And then when they're done, I'll just turn the oven off and let them sit in there. That helps to dry out some of the extra liquid and helps them to firm up. So depending on your oven, you may have to leave it in there longer or less time. So just keep an eye on them. The goal is just to have them lightly crispy, kind of firm, kind of the texture of jerky, but not quite there, where it's just softer. But yeah, so whatever works for you. You also may like it crispier. So whatever you want to do. All right, so when they are done, they're gonna look like this. You see that pink color, it comes from the beets. And then you'll see it has that nice firmness. And I shake it. All right, did you get enough?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something new. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment, and make sure you subscribe and like to our page. And also, if you want these recipes, we can put them in a link below.